the village that received tomorrow's mail. Every morning at exactly 7 a.m., the people of Greybrook village received their mail. Nothing unusual about that. Letters, newspapers, bills, birthday cards. Until one Monday morning, a letter arrived from Tomorrow. Elias Ward was the village postman. For 23 years, he had walked the same streets, delivered the same envelopes, and complained about the same old mailbox beside the church. Greybrook was a quiet place. Too quiet. Nothing extraordinary ever happened there, until Elias found a letter addressed to himself. The envelope was pale blue. There was no stamp, no sender, only his name, Elias Ward. He opened it. Inside was a single sentence. Tomorrow, do not ring the church bell. Elias stared at the message. Tomorrow was the annual village festival. The church bell was supposed to ring at noon. Why would anyone warn him? He laughed nervously and put the letter in his pocket. Then he noticed the date written beneath the message. Tuesday, October 17th. Today was Monday. The next morning, another strange letter appeared. This time it was addressed to the village baker. The message read, "Tomorrow, your daughter will return home. Do not let her enter through the front door." The baker nearly dropped the letter. His daughter had been missing for 6 years. Everyone assumed she was dead. By noon, the entire village knew about the letter. People began checking their mailboxes repeatedly. And the next morning, the baker's daughter returned, alive. Exactly as the letter had predicted. She stood outside the bakery, crying, begging to be let inside. The baker remembered the warning. He refused to open the front door. Instead, he opened the back door. His daughter stepped inside. Nothing happened. Everyone laughed at the strange warning. Maybe the letter had simply been wrong. Then, the front door exploded inward. A black shadow rushed through the empty doorway. It disappeared before anyone could see its face. The baker's daughter collapsed. When she woke up, she whispered, "It followed me home." After that, Greybrook stopped laughing. Every morning, more letters appeared. A farmer received, "Do not plant the eastern field tomorrow." A teacher received, "Do not ask Samuel where he was last night." A doctor received, "At 3:15 p.m., lock the hospital basement." Every warning came true, but there was something terrifying about the letters. They weren't predicting disasters. They were warning people about them. Someone, or something, was trying to protect the village from the future. Elias began investigating. He searched old postal records. The letters had appeared before. Not recently. Not even decades ago. The first recorded letter was dated 1892. It had been delivered to a woman named Margaret Vale. The message said, "Tomorrow, the river will forget where it flows." The next day, the river changed direction. Elias found hundreds of letters, one every few years, always before something impossible happened. Then he found something that made his blood run cold. Every recipient eventually disappeared. That evening Elias returned home. A new envelope waited on his doorstep. His hands trembled as he opened it. "Tomorrow, you will discover who sends the letters." Below it was another sentence. "When you do, do not answer the door." Elias looked toward his front door. Someone knocked. 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. He froze. A woman's voice came from outside. "Elias." It was his wife. But his wife had died 8 years earlier. He stepped backward. The knocking continued. "Elias, please open the door." He didn't move. Then the voice changed. It became his mother's. Then his father's. Then his own voice. "Open the door." Elias ran. He escaped through the back window and rushed toward the old post office. Inside, he discovered a hidden staircase beneath the floorboards. It led underground. At the bottom was a room filled with thousands of blue envelopes. Some were hundreds of years old. Others were still being written. In the center sat an enormous mechanical machine made of brass gears and glass tubes. Inside the machine, something was moving. A tiny glowing creature. It looked like a bird made from paper. Elias approached. The creature looked at him. Then it spoke. "You're late." Elias stepped back. "What are you?" "I deliver tomorrow." "Who sends the letters?" The creature pointed toward a wall. Thousands of photographs covered it. Every person who had ever received a letter. Every one of them had disappeared. Elias stared. "Where did they go?" The creature answered. "They became the senders." A terrible realization hit him. The letters weren't being sent from the future. They were being sent from inside the future. Every person who disappeared entered a place beyond tomorrow. A place where the future already existed. And once they entered, they became responsible for warning the past. The creature handed Elias one final envelope. His name was written on it. He opened it. Inside was a photograph. It showed Greybrook village. But the village was completely empty. No people. No houses. Only the church bell standing in the middle of a dead field. On the back were 4 words. "This happens tomorrow." Elias looked at the creature. "How do I stop it?" The creature's paper wings began trembling. "You can't." "Why?" "Because tomorrow has already happened." Suddenly, the underground room began shaking. Every blue envelope flew into the air. The machine screamed, and the church bell above the village rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Elias looked at the final envelope again. A new sentence appeared beneath the photograph. "Now you know why we send letters." The creature opened its wings. The entire room filled with blinding white light. When Elias opened his eyes, he was standing in Greybrook. But the village looked exactly like the photograph. Empty. Silent. Abandoned. Then he heard footsteps behind him. He slowly turned. Hundreds of people were walking toward him. Every one of them was holding a blue envelope. At the front of the crowd stood Elias himself, older by 50 years. The older Elias smiled sadly. "You finally arrived." Young Elias stared at him. "How old are you?" The older man looked toward the empty village. "Old enough to know. Tomorrow always collects its debts." He handed Elias a blue envelope. On it were 2 words, "Past Elias." And suddenly Elias understood. The next letter was supposed to be written by him, to be continued.